Seafood eConnect 2021. Welcome to the much awaited digital business meet. Seafood eConnect 2021 is a business event for professionals from all verticals in international seafood business, organized by Mars International. I am Rosalind Sandra, Event Promotion Officer at Mars International. The event aims at an update of seafood business activities for equipping you to cater the best of seafood to global customers in changing times. We have brought together a galaxy of speakers who are luminaries in different areas of seafood. The event has 6 conference sessions. First session on innovative technologies in seafood processing, and second session on digitalization and automation in seafood supply chain. Third session on MSc certification and fishery improvement project for sustainable seafood. Fourth session on international seafood market trends and analytics. Fifth session on transition in global fish segments to new consumer demands. And sixth session on traceability for improved seafood safety. Seafood eConnect 2021 is sponsored by Marine Stewardship Council, MSC, an international non-profit organization for well-managed and sustainable fisheries worldwide. The event is media partnered by Infofish Malaysia. Conference sessions has a lineup of international experts from MSc, FAO, Infofish, USFDA, This Fish, Maril, Seafood Tip, Seafood Matter, Fish World Track, Certified Quality Foods, Acadian Sea Plants, SSNI, and MPEDA, offering talks on versatile topics specific to seafood business and the way forward. We are Mars International, a full-service integrated marketing consultation firm with a goal to give brands a global identity and has a decade-long experience in organizing international events online as well as offline. It's day one of Seafood eConnect 2021. We have 2 sessions, innovative technologies in seafood processing and digitalization and automation in seafood supply chains. Well, it's time to commence the first session presented by 2 speakers. Innovative technologies in seafood processing. First speaker of session 1 is Diego Lages, Sales Director, Marul, Iceland. He will speak on novel and emerging seafood processing technologies. Mr. Diego, the screen is all yours.
Yes, thank you very much, and good afternoon to all. And thank you to Mars International for giving us this opportunity to present not only our company, but also to present the latest technologies and how this technology is helping to the seafood industry around the globe to improve their revenues, improve the digital journey, and also, of course, extremely important, be more sustainable. So my name is Diego Lages. I'm the Global Sales Director of the Icelandic company Marel, and we are the world leaders on manufacturing high technology and software for the seafood processing, meat, and poultry. So my presentation of today, it is about technology, of course, and I will start by sharing my screen and letting you know a little bit more about who is Marel and what is Marel. Well, I think I thought that instead of giving you like a big speech about how big we are, how many subsidiaries we have, or how many employees are working in our company, I'm going to try to summarize what kind of company we are with our vision. And our vision says that in partnership with our customers, we are transforming the way food is processed. And our vision is of a world where quality food is produced sustainably and affordably. And I think this vision is very important because our vision guides us on our everyday actions and decision making. And it says a lot about our company because it is in partnership with you, the industry, that we can transform the way food is processed. The well-known Jeff Bezos, CEO and founder of Amazon, it says that overnight success takes 10 years minimum. And it is really a big truth. And this success, it requires a lot of effort and work behind. And we think that in Marel, we are very successful and we build up all of our story and history based on four main pillars: a global presence, our quality on the service, a unique platform, and of course, innovation. Why this is important? Because having a global presence, we can understand the needs of the different countries, regions, market segments, etc., and allow us to be close to the market. Service, of course, because when we speak about technology, the after sales is extremely important. So having a good service model aimed to fully support the customers in all operations at all times globally. A strong platform. We are going to listen in the next coming days through the next conference about technology, about hardware, about software, about digital products, and so forth. So having a strong platform that is scalable, meaning that we can cover from the small producers to the larger ones and continue to meet the industry demand, is extremely important. And of course, last but not least, is innovation. We invest 6% of our revenues in continuous innovation, and this is what it makes us to be at the forefront. I was thinking about if I should share or not this video, because it was more based in 2020 year, but I think it's still very valid because we are still struggling with some limitations in traveling or borders closed in some other countries. So just this shows how important it is to keep on innovating in these days. Thank you all. And we are, of course, continuing with this transformation of the seafood industry. We are a company that it was born not a long time ago, back in 1983, but there has been many of the milestones that we achieve through these years that basically make or create a revolution into the fish industry. I will talk about some of them later on. I think it is also very important to understand what it happens in other proteins, like for example the poultry industry. And this is an example of the poultry processing value in the US and how with the use of technology, we not only became more sustainable, meaning that we use more of the raw material, but also how the use of this raw material, it was transformed, moving from an 83% of sales of whole birds up to only 5% in 2010. And we are quite convinced that this is happening and it will happen at a much faster pace into the seafood industry going forward. Why technology is important? Because it also helps us to increase productivity. So we are speaking that back in 1996, one operator in one factory, his throughput or her throughput per man hour, it was only 12 kilos. Thanks to the innovation, thanks to these new inventions that create a revolution, it helps to the processors to increase their productivity. And 2 years ago, when we did the last measurements, the technology, it helped us to move from this 12 kilos per hour back in 1996 to 270 now in 2019. I think we cannot speak about new technologies in the seafood industry without talking about the digital journey. I mean, it is extremely important and we are all affected by this digital world. And but to summarize what is happening now, before we had data, and when we did this analysis on the data, basically we thought about a descriptive. Basically, we asked to ourselves, what happened? Then we move more towards to a diagnostic. Why did it happen? Today we are in a model that is more about predict what is going to happen. So what will happen? But the technology and the digital products will help us to be more prescriptive. So what should I do? And in the past, all these decisions was taken by humans, but going forward, this decision will be automated and we will see how our systems, our machinery, our digital products will start taking decisions based on the data that they are receiving, and the human will only interact when needed. Basically, when these trends are out of the track. When we talk about new technologies, of course, we have to talk about artificial intelligence. What it is artificial intelligence? We need intelligent machines. Why? Because unfortunately, humans, we get tired after doing some repetitive movements, repetitive tasks in our factories. And this artificial intelligence combined with cybernetics, with problem solving, deep learning, machine learning, robotics, of course, and neural networks will help us to be more sustainable, to increase our yields, to improve our throughput, but it is really, really important to deliver to our consumers more safety products. So this is basically what we are doing when we are processing images through artificial intelligence. We can do image recognition. We can use vision technology applied into the machines. We can use these neural networks, as I explained before, also machine learning. But, the use of this artificial intelligence is not that easy. If it is difficult for the human eye, it will be also very difficult for our machines. Look at these examples. Can you really differentiate in between this crispy chicken drumstick and this beautiful puppy? Difficult, right? So just imagine with these muffins and this small little dog is extremely difficult. So the technology is there, but how we apply this technology is up to us, and the development of the algorithms, it is what is really going to make one application be viable or not. Look at this. It's extremely difficult to differentiate. Simulation. This changed radically the way that we in Marel, and I think very, very soon in other technological companies, we are doing or developing our things. In the past, if we had to make a test in a factory, basically everything started just making a hand sketch. That hand sketch was passed to an engineer who made a drawing in 3D or in 2D. Then this drawing, it was sent to the manufacturing department. We manufactured that device. And in order to check if this device was working or not, basically we had to send it to the factory of one of our clients, test it there, and only after a certain period of time, we could realize if our invention, our mock-up, it was good, or our prototype, it was good or not. Thanks to simulation technology, now we can replicate, even if needed, complete factories. So basically what we are getting is installations risk-free. Even we can simulate factories up to the level that we can basically put it in virtual reality and send this virtual factory to the customer, to the users, and they can be trained even before the real machinery arrives to the facilities. So that changed completely the way and the pace of our innovations, because basically now we can replicate in less than 1 hour, 3-4 different scenarios, and we can make sure that when it arrives to the customer, the system works. Of course, everybody is aware, I think, about the machines being connected. I mean, we are connected, our iPhones are connected, our laptops are connected, our plasma screens are connected. Now it's time that our processing machinery is connected too. Why this is so relevant? Because in the processing industry, we used to differentiate quite a lot between the KPIs, production KPIs, and for example, service KPIs. Having these machines connected and having all the data into a data lake in the cloud, what it will allow to the service engineer or to the user of the machine, it is to have more comprehensive data about what is going to happen or what did happen. So for problem solving, it is a great tool. By combining the technical data of the sensors of the machine with the production data and having all together in the same place is great, because at the end, what really matters is how good is our yield, how fast is our productivity, and how stable it is our quality. That was not possible in the past. Even though there were some quality systems implemented in the factory, it was extremely difficult to link, let's say, the service data with the production data into one single platform. Now this is possible thanks to digital engines into the machines. This is a video that shows how easy it is now to create the solutions. In the past, we had to basically listen to the customer needs. Of course, it's still extremely important nowadays. We have to understand the pains and how to solve it. But what it really changed radically is the way that we make layouts, that we make drawings. Today, we can work in a virtual world and build up solutions, basically like when we were kids and we were building up mechanos or Lego bricks, right? So this is a very good example of a white fish filleting line, starting with the filleting machine and then defining the trimming stations. See how easy it is to create and generate a new layout in basically few hours. Thanks to this technology, we are able to create quite complex solutions like the one that you have in front of you. In this solution, we start with robotics at the very beginning, and we finish with robotics at the end, having full control of the line, meaning that we have a lot of data collection points where we can gather information about the performance of the line, and of course, what is more important, about the performance of the raw material. So how good or bad is the use, what is the throughput, the quality of the product, etc., right? And what we are saying is that all these products that they are integrated has to be under the same process control. So automation, digitalization, and flexibility, it is key for our current world. But it's not only about to deliver machines, right? I think we are all living in the same, not I think, of course, we all live in the same planet, and we have to be friend with it. And this is why we also promise, to not only to deliver great systems, but also to deliver, in our case, carbon neutral machines, improve the yield and the quality, meaning that we are reducing the food waste, and also having, environmental data tracking, meaning that we can, at this moment, measure, for example, what is the electricity use, the water use in the factories of our clients. Why is this so important? Because still today, 35% of all the fish and seafood is classified as lost. That means that, through the entire value chain, there is a heavy work that is needed to do in order to reduce this seafood loss. So following the sustainability words, these are some examples on our list of equipment technology that our ship flags in sustainability, like the Revo Portioner, the FlexiCat, the Sensor X, the Salmon Deheader, and of course the robots. All these applications, technology, before born, when they were an idea, a simple idea, we always had in mind that they had to be sustainable for the world. And it doesn't matter if it is a big solution or a small solution. What we really are looking for is to improve the way the fish is processed. And this is an example that is, for me, quite significant. And it's about how we can make sushi products, Here we are registering the raw material, basically weighing, sending the data to a computer. The computer puts this information into a mechanical movement, and the sub is creating fixed weight portions. I imagine that all of you are buying online. This is a good example of how we can ensure that the customer experience when they buy again and again and again is the same, by receiving the same amount of product when they make this online order.
Thank you, Mr. Diego. Now the session is open for discussion.
Hi again.
Mr. Diego, you may continue.
Yeah, let's say it is only one final slide.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
It was a hard stop. I don't know really what happened. Apologize for that.
It's okay.
It's part of the technology. But as you can see, there was a very good technical service around, and we fixed it very quickly. So as I was saying, this is just a small example of technology used. And why technology matters in the seafood industry? Basically because 75% of our cost, it is raw material. So where our companies should put the focus on the raw material. So thank you so much for the invitation. And as I always finish my presentations, let's be together and in partnership with you, the industry, let's transform the way food is processed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diego. Now this session is open for discussion. We have few questions from our audience, but the first question is by Rosie from Scotland. Why is packaging important in fish processing?
Well, I think packaging, the main mission of the packaging is basically to ensure safe products, right? So we have seen many times how products not being well packed has a very high content of bacteria, and you know, at the end it is really a very high risk for us, the consumers.
Okay, we have another question more, which is by Arjit Pradhan from India. What are the EU process?
What are the EU process?
Yes, EU process.
Well, I mean, in the European Union, we processed. If I understood well, correctly, the question is about what kind of species do we process in the European Union, or what kind of?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in Europe, we processed quite variety of species. Of course, we have salmon that is basically the same in Europe as in many other places around the globe. But if we talk about whitefish, we have a lot of different species, cod-like species like the cod itself, the haddock, the scythe. We have flat species like sole, like flounder. In aquaculture, we farm another flat species that is called turbot. We also farm on the Mediterranean coasts, the sea bass and the sea bream. Sole is also being farmed. And now with the land-based farm, we are also seeing a lot of different farms, like for example with kingfish or with the shrimps even.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Diego, for your detailed explanation.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will start the next talk in a minute.
Hi, Chuck.
Hello. Hi, Diego.
Oh, I don't know what happened, but my computer just stopped suddenly. Boom.
Yeah, I think they have sponsor videos that kick on at certain times, and
Okay.
so I think you're on your last slide. All of a sudden, the sponsor logo came up, and
yeah, really bad luck, but okay. Technology.
Well, that means we really have to have our timing down.
Exactly.
Which I don't. We'll just have to see how it goes. I'm not good at rehearsing. I'm better at just presenting. But you sounded great.
Thank you. Good luck to you, man.
Thank you.
talk on seafood quality best practices through the supply chain. Mr. Anderson, handing over the screen to you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the opportunity to speak here at Seafood eConnect. My name is Chuck Anderson, and I have been in the seafood business for about 40 years. I did start pretty young. I was in the seafood markets to start. I was cutting fish. I was calling chefs and delivering seafood to restaurants in a small little truck driving around Alexandria, Washington, D.C., and Baltimore. So I've kind of came up through the ranks. I tried to get out of the seafood industry actually a couple times, and I got into supermarkets. So I was working to be assistant store manager, had gone through all the training programs, and they saw my seafood background, and boom, Safeway had me back in the seafood department, running the seafood department at the Safeway 1200 store in Georgetown in Washington, D.C. Some wonderful experience there. Got to service and provide seafood for embassies and for presidents and vice presidents, and there were some pretty special requests. So I learned a lot in my way there. So from there, I moved on to Ahold USA with Giant Food Stores, with Bilo, and with Stop and Shop. And I rose through a few different positions, from merchandising to buying to kind of running some operations. And I spent a little time at HEB in Texas, a wonderful grocery chain, very well run, great operation, and I was very fortunate to work there for a while as well. The last 10 years plus, I've been in the seafood processing, seafood marketing, and sales areas. So that's what I've been doing, and I'd love to share my experience, what we're doing. Today's talk is going to be a little bit about my company and what we're doing now. And then at the end, I'm going to talk a little bit about some best practices in the seafood world. So I think I'm ready to share. Okay. Hopefully you can all see my screen. Again, I'm Chuck Anderson with Certified Quality Foods. We're a startup company. So our question to you today is, what if you could instantly, non-invasively, and objectively measure seafood quality? And there's an example. Could you measure whole dressed sockeye? You'd know it's supplier A, you'd know what the score is, and you'd know it's excellent. So the current best practices when it comes to evaluating seafood quality is organoleptic evaluation, which is a great way to do it, but it is rather slow. It takes 15 to 30 minutes to do a really good evaluation on one product. It is very subjective. One person may consider something grade A quality, someone else may consider it grade B quality. Anyone in the tuna industry knows this difference because there's a lot of arguments over ones or two pluses. It does require a lot of expertise to do organoleptic examination, and it does require a lot of long-term training. So even somebody who's 20, 30 years into business is always learning and still refining those skills that it takes to be a great evaluator of seafood. The other current best practice is certified lab testing. So you can certainly send products to a lab. It's very slow, takes 3 days or 4 days to get your results back. Quite often that fish is already out the door, sold and consumed by the consumer before you know what the Staphylococcus plate count was. It is very objective, so it's good that way, but it can be very expensive too. Each sample could be $100 to $150 per sample. It could be very expensive over time. So that leads to a lot of industry problems. In the seafood industry, we have a lot of inconsistent quality compared to other operations. So if you look at produce or say poultry, for example, a supermarket customer can go to the store and pick up poultry 20 times and get 20 good meals in a row. Does your seafood customer feel like they can buy your seafood 20 times and get 20 good experiences in a row? That's certainly a challenge for anybody. Number two is shrink and food waste. We all talk about that, and that's certainly a big issue in our industry. Like Diego said, up to 35% of the seafood is thrown away, and if we can help that, we will try to do so. Subjective quality inspection is a problem because, again, people don't agree. One person sends what they say is A grade fish, and they receive it, and they say, no, this is B grade fish. So that's a problem for our industry. And all those things lead to a lack of consumer confidence. Again, if that consumer doesn't know that they can buy fresh seafood and it's going to be a great experience and it won't stink up the house, and they can do that 20 times in a row, then we're getting to where we need to be, and we're not there yet. Also, the industry doesn't have any objective quality-based pricing. So when you buy, tuna and it's grade 1, is that objectively measured, or is that just somebody says it's a number 1 because they organoleptically looked at it? And a lot of products don't have quality tiers like tuna does. Is your cod A, B, C grade? Do you look at things like that? And could we look at things like that? And then there is traceability, and it's getting better and better. But are we tracing the quality of our products? And lastly, the industry problem that we can probably help with to some degree is economic fraud, and that's going to come in the form of water-added products or products that were previously frozen sold as fresh. And our technology can help identify both of those issues. So who we are certified quality foods. We are changing the way seafood is bought and sold. Our technology and our system is objective, it's inexpensive, it's non-invasive, doesn't hurt the fish, and it's instantaneous. So what we do, we implement objective digital verification, visualization, and certification systems for the seafood and for other industries as well. We are becoming the industry standard for measuring and monitoring seafood quality and other things, fat content, water content, things like that. So what's the science behind this? There is real solid science behind this. The science is bioelectrical impedance analysis. So essentially what's happening, there's 4 electrodes coming out of our machine. There's very weak current, or actually 2 very weak currents that go through the product and come back within nanoseconds. That's very quick. The electrical currents, the weaker of the 2 currents, passes around the cells. And so if the cells are lysine and water's coming out and breaking, that's why you get water in the bottom of a tub, as fish weeps. You're going to see that. And the more water is, the more extracellular water there is, the faster that current goes. And the second current's slightly stronger and tries to go through the cells. And the outside of every single cell is a phospholipid bilayer. That's where the fat is. So the more fat there is, the more that is impeded, and the slower that current goes. So we can measure things like water and fat, and obviously quality. We have published, well, not we, actually Dr. Keith Cox. He is our co-founder and one of the inventors of this technology for seafood. And he's published 15 papers looking at the accuracy of this technology for a lot of different applications. We do have a validation study conducted by Oregon State, conducted measuring fish degradation of salmon and other species. And we have a number of patents that either are done or are in process. And you can see our square values and our correlations are very tight. So this is very solid technology. So how the system works, first you take the device, you're going to measure your seafood with your CQR. Then the data is uploaded to our cloud-based repository. So yes, people do use our machine to make decisions right on the spot. Do I reject this product? Do I accept it? Was it frozen? Was it not? Things like that. But the real value comes when you upload the data. And that goes into our business intelligence platform where it's there for analysis for our customers. And then the customers will collaborate with suppliers based on what they're seeing and trends they see on their inbound quality scores. And then customers also use the outbound scores. So before they send a product to a really picky customer or a picky chef, they can measure the product and make sure that, okay, my product I'm sending out to this picky chef is as good as it can be. And it's used that way as well. So this is what you see in the dashboard. There are a couple example reports. I'll show you 3 example reports. So what you're looking at here on the y-axis axis on the left, there is the quality number or the quality index. And then you have different suppliers across the bottom. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. So instead of supplier names, which you would normally see, we have generic numbers representing each supplier. When you look at the chart, you'll see there's a green line across the top of the chart. There's a black line along the middle of the chart, and toward the bottom of the chart, there is a red line. So the green line is 1 standard deviation above the average. The average is the black line, and the red line is 1 standard deviation below. So it kind of gives you a high quality threshold, an average, and a low quality threshold. So this report is looking at salmon fillet, Atlantic salmon fillets. And this supplier, and this was a 1-year time, you can slice and dice the data any way you want. You want to look at the last day, the last week, the last month, whatever you want to look at. If you want to look at, seasonality, what do the summers look like versus the winters, things like that. We can break them down that way as well. So this chart, what they're looking at is the average score for supplier 543 was a 13.8. The average score for supplier 153 was a 9.8, which was slightly below average for all scores. And then there was two suppliers that were very low, 3.3 and 2.9. So you can see how you could use this to work with your suppliers to reward good quality product and to work with ones that their quality may not be as strong as it should be. Here's another way to look at it. We look at quality by day. So one of our customers was getting products out of South America, and I believe this was snapper, and they thought they were getting fresh snapper virtually every day from different suppliers. Well, some of the suppliers were only getting product twice a week, and this one supplier they looked at was only getting products on Saturday and on Thursday. So what they received was on Sunday and Friday. So when they received product on Thursdays, it was actually the same fish they were getting on Sundays, and they didn't know that until they started measuring the inbound products every time. So the data can give you a lot of insights into the best days to buy, the best suppliers to buy from on certain days. And lastly, as an example, I'm going to show you the previously frozen or fresh category. So this shows you the percentage on the y-axis on the left, and you'll see 100% of the flounder, for example, was all fresh product. The yellow is super chilled product, which is product that's been chilled down to 29 to 32 degrees or minus 1.5 Celsius. And then if product gets previously frozen, it shows that as well. So things like mahi, there's a very inexact science on how they super chill. And a lot of those suppliers were actually freezing the product, creating a lot of damage. So you can see how valuable this report could be as well. So we don't measure just fish. We also measure shrimp with our technology. We can measure scallops. And we are, well, we're not moving into, we have been for several years working with poultry processors to identify woody breast and quality of poultry and chicken. We are working with folks on pork tenderness. We are doing some work with Kansas State on beef grading, which may be helpful internationally for folks that don't have USDA inspectors, but they want to know what's prime, the 3 different levels of prime or 3 different levels of choice on their hindquarters and their loins. We can look at scallop moisture, which is very valuable to a number of folks, and also work with aquaculture animals, and there's more coming. And so we've developed a waterproof CQR that's a certified quality reader, 2.0, and that 2.0 device is fully waterproof IP65, and it's been used on, I think, 15 different tenders in Bristol Bay, Alaska this year. So it's really good for high water environments, such as on a boat or some processing facilities. And then coming soon, and I can't show you what it looks like quite yet, but we have a smaller device, which is a CQR 3.0. So the big advantages there, it's still going to be objective, it's still going to be non-invasive and instant, but it's going to be much more affordable. The current devices are not expensive, but they're not cheap. So that system has been developed by larger companies, by larger processors, as well as a lot of academic groups and such. But this new 3.0 device is going to be very affordable, very small, and will be used through many different industries and potentially with end user customers as well. We're going to expand from just seafood and meat into produce, because we can measure anything with cells, whether it's live or dead. We can tell you how fresh it is. We can tell you how ripe it is or how spoiled it is. And then we have a CQR 4.0 inline quality monitoring system, which is actually, we have some beta units up in Alaska measuring salmon now. So if you need to measure something on a production line and you want to know the quality of those products, measuring every second or so, we can do that as well. So I'm really excited about this technology. It's not something that I usually do. I don't usually do talks about my own company. Usually I'm talking about the industry or other things. But what we're doing is so advanced and so cool and so helpful to the industry that I just feel really good about talking about it, where I normally don't in my sales positions. And then also coming soon, we have a quality certification program, and that certification program is going to let people that use it assure their quality of seafood. It'll help them increase sales, which will then increase sales for their suppliers. you can market your product as certified quality seafood. Just how many more sales you're going to get? How many more people are going to buy from you because they know that your product's been marketed and certified as a high quality product. Then you can segregate fish. You can take high quality lots and sell them for higher prices. Talk about trying to push margins, because you only have so many pounds to sell. Can I sell, 20% of my product for $1 more because it's a higher quality product? Well, yes, you can. And this is a way to do it. And then you will increase sales, which will naturally decrease shrink. So the benefits of this technology and our certification program can go a lot of ways. So that concludes the pitch portion of my presentation. I did say that I was going to talk about some best practices. So what I want to do now is show you a chart. And this chart was created using our technology. So you'll see on the y-axis, there is the certified quality number, or how high the quality is. And on the bottom, there are days. So it goes from 0 to 20 days. So we measured a number of different salmon over 21 days. And we looked at different handling practices and different species. So the two I want you to pay attention to, or three. So the black line is the average, all right? So you see how that starts out at about 100, and you get down to about day 13, and it's 18, which is where an FDA inspector rejected that product. So if you look at the red dotted line, that is an average or poorly handled coho salmon. And you'll see it started off as 100, but it quickly dropped in quality. And by day 7 or 8, it was already at a rejection level, according to that FDA inspector. But the same batch of coho, there was another coho that was slush iced and also pressure bled. And that's the solid dark blue line. And you'll see it actually started off with a lower quality because it was handled, right? There was a lot of handling involved, and that damaged some of the cells. So it actually started off lower. But the fact that you got rid of the bacteria and the enzymes out of the blood and out of the entrails, that product lasted actually 16 to 17 days. So now you went from a 7-day-old coho to a 17-day-old coho, same quality, just because you pressure bled the product. So that's one of the ways it uses technology. And it also enforces how important good handling is at the source, whether it's at the farm or at the boat or at the first processor. That handling is so important to get the product cold fast. So we recommend slush ice chilling, pressure bleeding, like we just showed in that last chart. Again, the two things that break down fish are bacteria and enzymes. People say time and temperature. Well, they don't really break down the fish. It's the bacteria and the enzymes that eat up the fish and degrade it. And they just use time and temperature as their tools to get it done. So pressure bleeding. And then ikejime is another style of taking the spinal column out and reducing the bacteria and enzyme load there. So MAP is certainly not new technology, but that's technology that's widespread in Europe and is getting more acceptance in the United States for all kinds of foods as well as seafood. And it does extend shelf life very effectively. But some of the newer technologies, you can actually have MAP for your pallets. So there's a company called Blue Wrap, and they actually produce a wrap that goes around your entire pallet, whether it's on a container ship or on a truck, and you can put a MAP atmosphere around your product, extend your shelf life by 5 to 10 days. And you can now ship fresh salmon on a boat versus shipping it fresh through air. So more environmentally friendly, less more cost effective, unless of course it's going to be held up at the port for 35 days like things are these days. But it's a neat technology. I wanted people to know about it. And then I've done a lot of research, and there's a lot of different work on MAP. So not just what's the atmosphere in there, CO, oxygen, nitrogen, et cetera. But if you add radiation, can you extend the shelf life of rainbow trout? Well, you can, according to this. And then adding tocopherol to a film helps maintain red color in tuna. CO2 emitters can help reduce bacterial growth in cod, and so on. So clove oil, thyme oil, these things help reduce microbial growth in smoked rainbow trout and sea bass when combined in a MAP atmosphere. So a lot of these technologies, there's so much more technology coming. Everyone should be aware of it, out there researching it and trying to implement these things where you can to extend the shelf life and provide customers with great product. And speaking of providing customers with great product, probably one of the best ways to do it long term is top quality freezing. And obviously, blast freezing can be good, brine freezing can be good, but the faster the product freezes, the smaller those ice crystals are and the less damage there is when that product thaws out. So two of the more advanced technologies today are electromagnetic freezing and then cryogenic nitrogen or CO2. And lastly, I wanted to mention 10K OTR film, which is being used in bulk products as well as in retail packages. And you'll see those at Walmart and a lot of your bigger stores these days, because it does extend the shelf life by 7 to 10 days. So those are some of the more advanced technologies that are out there, and I hope people are using them, researching them, and doing their best to provide better quality products to their customers. So with that, I'll conclude my presentation portion and look forward to any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Now the session is open for discussion. We have received a question from Ron Risher. Can your technology determine chalk in Pacific halibut or soft flesh in toothfish and sablefish?
Yes, it can. We haven't done as many studies as we'd like to do. We did some preliminary ones that noticed the chalky halibut syndrome and can identify that in whole fish without cutting the fish open. We assume they're the same capabilities there for sea bass and for other fish, because we that's one of the things this thing does is it detects muscle myopathies and things that are abnormal about the muscle and the flesh and the cells. So it does for pork, it does it for poultry, certainly for halibut. But we haven't gotten any commercial work yet on the chalky halibut. But I think with our new CQR 3.0, that's going to be less expensive, easier to use. I think we're going to be in every processing plant in Alaska checking for chalky halibut.
Okay, we have one more question by Kathy Fernandez from Italy. How does supply chain management affect the quality of products and services?
How does supply chain management affect it?
Yes.
Dramatically. So certainly the handling, at source, when the fish first comes out of the water, how fast you get it cold and you get the entrails and the blood out, to get the enzymes and the bacteria out, that's critical. But number two is, keeping that cold chain solid throughout the whole supply chain. And we've certainly gotten a lot better, but the seafood business is a logistics business. Anybody that's been in seafood and the fresh seafood business knows that it's really, the best logistics operators are the best operators overall. So when I was a seafood buyer for supermarket chains, I spent as much time researching, the company and their asset plan and their plant and visiting the plant and, who are their fishermen and how do they handle the fish. I looked at that stuff very closely, but even more closely, I looked at, okay, what days do you, buy at the auction? What day do your boats come in? How long will it be from the time that product goes from you to me? Who's going to handle it in the interim? Who's got refrigeration along the way? Will it be out of refrigeration anytime? What's the packaging going to look like to make sure that product stays cold? What's the refrigerant look like? So all those supply chain issues are critical, which is why it's such a challenge right now with our supply chain issues around the world.
I hope there are no more questions. Thank you, Mr. Anderson, for answering the questions from our audience.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to your group.
You're welcome. Now it's time to have a session break. We will get back in 5 minutes. The next session will be on digitalization and automation in seafood supply chain.
People have relied on the oceans as a source of food and for their livelihoods for thousands of years. As technology has advanced, we've become capable of fishing more intensively. So looking after the oceans and the resources they provide is more important now than ever before. If the oceans are to be healthy, productive, and full of fish in the future, we have to fish sustainably. Sustainable fishing reduces environmental impacts, leaves more fish in the sea, and harms fewer marine animals. Sustainable fisheries have good management practices. The Marine Stewardship Council standard allows fisheries to show that they are well managed and that they fish in a sustainable way. The MSC standard is open to all fisheries that would like to be recognised as sustainable. To be certified as sustainable, a fishery must be able to meet all three principles of the MSC standard. The fishery must leave enough fish in the sea so that stocks can reproduce and fishing can go on forever. Fishing operations need to be managed so that the wider marine environment, other plants, animals, and habitat can flourish and support life. The fishery must have good management in place. The MSC uses its blue eco-label to identify seafood that has come from sustainable fisheries certified to its standard. The eco-label is already displayed on tens of thousands of products in over 100 countries around the world. Consumers who want to play their part in maintaining and improving the health of the oceans can look for and choose seafood with a distinctive blue MSC eco-label. It is vital that we safeguard the ocean's resources and protect people's livelihoods for the future. To do this, we need to work together. People have relied on the oceans as a source of food and for their livelihoods for thousands of years. As technology has advanced, we have become capable of fishing more intensively. So looking after the oceans and the resources they provide is more important now than ever before. If the oceans are to be healthy, productive, and full of fish in the future, we have to fish sustainably. Sustainable fishing reduces environmental impacts, leaves more fish in the sea, and harms fewer marine animals. Sustainable fisheries have good management practices. The Marine Stewardship Council standard allows fisheries to show that they are well managed and that they fish in a sustainable way. The MSC standard is open to all fisheries that would like to be recognized as sustainable. To be certified as sustainable, a fishery must be able to meet all three principles of the MSC standard. The fishery must leave enough fish in the sea so that stocks can reproduce and fishing can go on forever. Fishing operations need to be managed so that the wider marine environment, other plants, animals, and habitat can flourish and support life. The fishery must have good management in place. The MSC uses its blue eco-label to identify seafood that has come from sustainable fisheries certified to its standard. The eco-label is already displayed on tens of thousands of products in over 100 countries around the world. Consumers who want to play their part in maintaining and improving the health of the oceans can look for and choose seafood with a distinctive blue MSC eco-label. It is vital that we safeguard the ocean's resources and protect people's livelihoods for the future. To do this, we need to work together. People have relied on the oceans as a source of food and for their livelihoods for thousands of years. As technology has advanced, we have become capable of fishing more intensively. So looking after the oceans and the resources they provide is more important now than ever before. If the oceans are to be healthy, productive, and full of fish in the future, we have to fish sustainably. Sustainable fishing reduces environmental impacts, leaves more fish in the sea, and harms fewer marine animals. Sustainable fisheries have good management practices. The Marine Stewardship Council standard allows fisheries to show that they are well managed and that they fish in a sustainable way. The MSC standard is open to all fisheries that would like to be recognized as sustainable. To be certified as sustainable, a fishery must be able to meet all three principles of the MSC standard. The fishery must leave enough fish in the sea so that stocks can reproduce and fishing can go on forever. Fishing operations need to be managed so that the wider marine environment, other plants, animals, and habitat can flourish and support life. The fishery must have good management in place. The MSC uses its blue eco-label to identify seafood that has come from sustainable fisheries certified to its standard. The eco-label is already displayed on tens of thousands of products in over 100 countries around the world. Consumers who want to play their part in maintaining and improving the health of the oceans can look for and choose seafood with a distinctive blue MSC eco-label. It is vital that we safeguard the ocean's resources and protect people's livelihoods for the future. To do this, we need to work together.
Welcome back. Now we have session 2 on digitalization and automation in seafood supply chain, presented by 2 speakers. I invite Mr. Eric Enno Tamm, the co-founder and CEO of This Fish, for his session talk on digital transformation in seafood industry. Mr. Eric, the screen is yours.
Great, thanks. It's wonderful to be here. Before I get started, I'll just give you a little bit of background about myself. So I'm co-founder and CEO of a software and artificial intelligence company, but I actually don't have an engineering background myself. So I actually was born and raised in the commercial fishing industry in the Canadian Pacific. That goes back generations. So my father was a fisherman, grandfather, great grandfather, and so forth. So I've got a lot of on the ground experience in the seafood industry, and really started to work in seafood technology probably around 2008, 2009, pioneering some traceability applications in global supply chains. So I'll just share my screen here and start my presentation. There we are. Yeah, so today's talk is titled Digital Transformation in the Seafood Industry. And I'm really going to talk about, I guess, two levels of digitization. One is basic first steps in digitization, and the second is looking at deeper levels of digitization and using that data and bringing more value to the data. And that's really largely around artificial intelligence. So, for us as a company, our mission is really to drive profitability and sustainability in the seafood industry through better data, digital, real-time, and actionable. So that's our mission as a company. And as we know, seafood is actually the most globally traded protein on Earth. The industry is complex, industrial, and fairly large scale. Yet really the information systems running global supply chains are pretty archaic. And I work all over the world in Southeast Asia, Latin America, North America, Europe. And I would say that, there's really no region that's really ahead in terms of digitization. This here is an image of a seafood processor in Thailand, but it could be Canada or Latin America for that matter. It's a very paper-based system. And as we know, this paper-based information system really leads to a lot of inefficiencies, a lot of errors, and that often leads to non-compliance, which is often pretty critical in the food industry. The other thing I would say is this paper trail has created pretty opaque supply chains, which means a lot of illegal, fraudulent, and seafood from pretty nasty supply chains often ends up on our dinner table. But, in such a massive industry with millions of fishermen and farmers on one side and millions of restaurants and retailers on the other, where do you start in terms of digital transformation? So in the middle, there's actually only about 50,000 seafood processors. So from our perspective, this is really the most critical node in the supply chain because it's really the data bottleneck. And so in terms of digital transformation, we really see the challenges in the seafood processing sector kind of falls into three buckets. One is around labor costs, just the paperwork and manual recording and data errors lead to all sorts of inefficiencies. There's the process control. Often there's no real-time control. People lose track of yields, shrinkage, shipping variances. So the industry really struggles with the lack of process control. And then the final one is compliance, not having strong traceability and very granular traceability. So these are the challenges that we see in the industry. So how much data do most of the seafood processors actually collect? Most don't actually know. But based on our client surveys, here are some basic numbers. So, a 100-ton tuna cannery is probably collecting maybe between 4 to 8 gigabytes of data a year. A tuna sashimi plant, maybe around 2 to 4. Cooked crab and smoked salmon, around a gigabyte or 2, and so on and so forth. So basically, the larger and more complex the processing, the lot more data that you're collecting, and there's a lot of value in that data. I mean, what we're really trying to do is bring the industry into what's been termed the fourth industrial revolution. So the first was really about steam and power and steam engines. Second was electrification. The third in the 1970s was really about computers and electronics. And now we're entering really the fourth industrial revolution, and that's really around digitization and machine learning. And Industry 4.0, or the fourth industrial revolution, is made up of many different types of technology, and some of them are going to be more important than others to the industry, such as cloud computing, smart sensing, blockchain, which we'll hear about a bit later, cognitive computing, big data, and so forth. In my experience working with seafood companies, I would, in terms of looking at their digital readiness level, and there are a number of indices of how to measure digital readiness, I would say that most companies fall as number one. They're really just starting the journey. A few are maybe coming to two. And the reason I show this here is that taking your company and your business into the digital age, it's not a quick fix. It's not just purchasing one piece of software or one piece of hardware. It's really a journey, and it's about changing the culture and attitude in your company. So, for us, what we have developed is some software called Tally, which really enables the seafood processors to digitize and automate all their data in real time on the factory floor using IoT devices and tablet computers. And really the basic functionality of our software, and this is similar to many other softwares who are doing basic digitization, is really, number one, is the digitization, creating digital forms that at a very basic level, people can manually input data instead of on paper. They can put it on a tablet and digitize it in real time. Once the data is in there, we can display the data on dashboards so that production managers and supervisors can monitor what's happening in the factory in real time. Of course, there's lots of compliance reporting in the seafood industry. So again, once the data is in a digital format, you can produce all sorts of customized PDF reports for auditors, for government regulators, and for your internal business processes. And then finally, there's automation and integration, which are sort of similar. On the automation front, it's often about integrating the software with third-party hardware, digital barcode readers, label printers, RFID, temperature gauges, and other equipment in the factory. And then we can also integrate our software into third-party software. So this is really about systems integration and integrating your production and quality data, maybe with your accounting or ERP, with your logistics, and even with government regulators. So you can export your data to the government if they're requiring digital reporting. And so the value proposition really for digitization, I would say, falls into three categories. One is really, as I mentioned, reducing the labor costs, and that's by just being more efficient. The second one is really about improving the material costs, or better managing your material costs, and that's really about real-time control. It's about knowing what's happening in your factory in real time so you can catch mistakes that are happening. And I'll give you an example. We had one customer who it was an Alaskan customer that realized their workers were accidentally overstuffing shipping containers by about 10%. So they were accidentally sending 10% more product to their customers, which was costing them about $500,000 a year. So through digitization and barcoding the pallets and being able to have a digital review of the shipping containers and what's in them, they were able to basically reduce and eliminate all this variance. And then the third kind of cost center I would call opportunity cost. And that is, if you don't have strong traceability and strong compliance, you might not be able to, send your product to Europe, or very discerning customers that are, for instance, want MSC product may not buy from you because you have a weak chain of custody. So that's actually a cost, because it's about the cost of losing business or not being able to have market access. So now that's sort of the basic digitization, looking at kind of, industry, maybe 3.0. 4.0 is really, I think, going to be AI driven. And I want to talk a little bit about AI in the industry. So AI is now everywhere. It's in our cars, it's in our home devices, it's in our Google Maps, it's in our automatic translation. There's lots of AI now in logistics as well. And so what's really powering this AI? And one of the things that's powering it is the just enormous volume of digital data in the world. And that's largely because of the explosion of digital sensors in the world. So in the last 10 years, we've actually seen the amount of digital data in the world go up 30-fold. So there's been enormous amounts of digital data. Second is the algorithms that are driving the AI are improving. So this chart shows ImageNet, which was a large-scale visual recognition challenge that's been happening for the last 10 years. And what the chart shows is that in 2015, machines became better at image recognition than people. And so there's been a huge improvement in the algorithms that are running the artificial intelligence. And then the third one I would say is, and that's really driving it, is cost. The actual cost of seafood has gone up by 60% since 1990, according to the FAO Fish Price Index. But at the same time, the cost of computer chips has gone down by 50%, while the chips have actually improved in performance exponentially. So I call this the Fish and Chips Index, and I think this is kind of the meta trend that's going to be really driving digitization, adoption of new technologies in the industry. And here's just one example. We recently published some data on the adoption of software and AI in the aquaculture industry. So this is only software and AI for aquaculture. And what we discovered is that in the last 5 years, almost half of the existing 49 software companies were founded in just the last 5 years alone. So there's been a huge explosion in new startups and the adoption of technology in the sector. So what is AI? Well, artificial intelligence is really about simulating intelligence in machines. And it aims to build machines which are capable of thinking a little bit like a human. Machine learning is really about programming machines or getting machines to make decisions without actually being programmed. So actually the machines learn from data, through data. And deep learning is kind of a subset of machine learning. It's really about using artificial neural networks to solve really, really complex problems. So it's like mimicking how the human mind works. In AI, you'll hear a lot about algorithms, which are really mathematical, or you'll hear models as well. And they're mathematical formulas to set rules for performing a task. So in AI, the algorithm really tells the machine how to go about finding a solution to a particular problem. So you hear lots about AI models, and many of them already exist in the world. They have funny names like random forest or support vector machine or k-nearest neighbor. So a lot of these machine learning models are actually publicly available to be used. So how does machine learning work relative to traditional programming? Well, with traditional modeling, you basically take data and you program your model, you put it into a computer, and you get a result. So that's kind of standard computer programming. With machine learning, what you do is you take a sample of data and the expected results, put it into the computer, and the computer actually trains a model to understand the relationship between the data and the results. With this trained model, then you put that trained model into another computer, put in new data, and then what you can get are some predictions or results that coming out of it. So the key concept here is really around the ability to train the model with data. So when you acquire more data, what you typically do is you go back and take that larger data set and retrain your model. And in general, the more data you have, the smarter your model for predictions in machine learning. So what do you really need? What are the ingredients for artificial intelligence? Well, data is king for sure. It needs to be clean, comprehensive, and complete. The second is you need domain experts. So not only like data scientists, but you need people in the seafood industry that understand AI and that can understand what kind of problems can be solved with AI. And the third part is really the models or the technology, and that's the easiest part. So in this graphic I put here, data is probably the most difficult part and most important. The second is the domain expertise, but technology is actually the simplest part. Most of the machine learning models are out there publicly, and it's becoming more and more accessible. So why is machine learning and AI going to be important to the seafood industry? One of the reasons is because there's a lot of natural variability in seafood, which basically means it's really hard for companies to predict quality and production outcomes. And Chuck talked a lot about that. So that's really just a perfect problem for AI. There are many variables that impact quality and production outcomes. And with those variables, you could use those to basically formulate better predictions. So how much AI is being used in the industry? So we looked at about 220 apps. And what we found, about 30% are using AI and about 6% are using blockchain technologies. So you can see here, the vast majority of AI is really in the aquaculture and fishing industry, where you see blockchain is more around supply chains. And we'll hear a little bit more about that a bit later. So this is a PACK framework, and it stands for Predict, Automate, and Classify. And it's sort of like the things that the artificial intelligence does well. And on this graphic, what I've done is just kind of shown how AI is used throughout the industry and the types of roles that it can play. So, for us, what we've done is developed some technology called TallyBot. It's basically an AI-enabled app that we can embed in our software that can do all sorts of, we can program it with just standard algorithms to do a lot of process automation, like quality control checks and alerts. And then we're working on some predictive analytics as well with using machine learning algorithms. And we've embedded the TallyBot into the interface of the software, because what we really want to do is communicate to the workers on the floor that the TallyBot is really like their digital helper. I kind of joke that it's like the R2D2 of seafood processing. So now I just want to talk a little bit about some of the machine learning R&D that we're working on. First is we're looking at developing a yield prediction model, looking at the variables that impact yield in processors. We've done some work on a salmon processor in Canada and a tuna processor in Southeast Asia. And what this here shows you is the blue is the actual yield and the red is the predicted yield. So you can see the model predicts fairly accurately the actual yield that's going to happen based on the quality of the raw materials. And the reasons why they might be variant is because of some anomalies around the quality, or maybe something went wrong in the factory. So what I believe the yield prediction model can do is really help production managers understand, did they have a good day in production, or did they have a bad day? And the model can kind of accurately judge how the production went. The other thing that we're working on is looking at rapid salinity prediction. It's really difficult. They have to chop fish up in the tuna industry, taking up to a lab and grind them. So we're looking for a non-invasive way to do yield prediction. And we're using NIR scanners to basically scan the tuna and then model it against the actual salinity. So this is an R&D project that we're currently working on. And finally, we're working on some computer vision to basically automate the quality control, looking at defects in the fish in the factory using basically computer imaging. And we believe that there'll be huge value in connecting the data from the factory to the farm data. So you can see the quality outcome in the factory. If you could link that to the practices on the fish farms, you could better understand what practices are leading to better quality in the factory. So I think that this is where the technology is going. It's all about kind of connecting the data throughout the supply chain. So in terms of going digital, I would say focus on some key priorities and stay agile. Take a phased approach to your AI strategy and your digital transformation. And I'll just leave you with this, that, it's really not about who has the best algorithm that wins. It's really about who has the most data. So getting digital data is really your first step in this long journey. And so I'd really encourage companies to really look at how they can start to digitize a lot of their processes in their factory. And I'll just finish by saying, we are putting out a monthly newsletter where we're talking a lot about AI in the industry. We just put out a post on aquaculture, and our next one is going to be about AI and software in the wild capture fisheries. So if you're interested, please sign up to our newsletter. You can sign up at this.fish/catchup. Great. So I really appreciate your time, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Eric. Now the session is open for discussion. We have a question from our audience by Abdul Nasir from Israel. How is the seafood industry integrating new technology into its supply chain?
Well, that's a pretty general question. How is it adopting new technology? Well, I would say in the supply chain, you're going to hear about this a little bit later. I would say that blockchain technology is really the technology that has taken off in the last 5 years. I've been working on supply chain traceability for well over 10 years now. And I would say in the last 5 years, there's been a pretty big explosion in the blockchain applications. I would say, though, that the seafood industry is lagging behind. I say we've seen a lot more rapid adoption of like traceability technologies like blockchain in coffee, and other commodities. Seafood has been a bit slower. I think that there are some complexities in seafood supply chains that have led to this. And I also think that there's been some challenges in terms of the attitudes and behaviors of the industry. It's traditionally been a more secretive industry. People don't like to share where they're sourcing their products. And I think that some of this kind of attitude and behaviors is kind of slowing the adoption. But I think that there are a lot of innovators. There are a lot of young people now I see coming into the industry, taking over family businesses from their father. And we're seeing a lot more appetite for innovation. And I think that the pandemic has also really opened the eyes of a lot of people that digitization is here to stay. And there's lots of advantages to it.
There are no more questions. Thank you, Mr. Eric.
Great, thank you.
The next talk resumes in a minute. I invite Jose Iglesias Alvarez, Managing Director at Fish World Track, Spain, to give a session talk on hook to plate blockchain technologies in seafood industry. Mr. Jose, the screen is yours.
Thank you. I'm talking from Spain. We are a small company, startup. We are trying to deliver this blockchain technology to the seafood industry. My background is on seafood is culinary industry, frozen industry as well for many years here in Spain and also in South America. And I'd like to introduce you to my company, sharing my screen and showing what we do. Okay. Our technology is powered by a company called Bottom, founded recently. We have various different prices. It's a very awarded company last year in Spain and in Europe. It's listed in Gartner as for our technology. We have a very, very good team and a few patents for blockchain. Our blockchain can operate with different blockchains, our platform with different blockchains, and we are very proud of that. Is not easy, and it's a very good thing for our platform. When we started this company, what we try to achieve is to allow consumers to access origin of seafood and fish. But all is about sustainability as well. And what we try is to provide better information we can to the customers, and talk about quality of the products and help companies to operate with less costs more efficiently. So I think that now most of us know blockchain, but there are some points very interesting for our industry. One is about trust, is about the data. The data can be moved, can be touched. It's about control. You have your key, you have your personal access, and you can share the information uploaded to the blockchain with the person or with the company you decide. Is the power is in your hands. It helps with discussions because we operate in a single letter. That's very important. We talk the same language, is a way to say. Helps to ensure transparency and allows communication and collaboration between stakeholders of this industry. So, well, of course, we know that our world, our planet, needs some help. We have many issues to deal with. We need to be more sustainable and sorry, let me stop the and okay, production and fishing is growing and growing. We need to feed many people, and we need some tools to do that. So what can we do? How can we help to the seafood industry? Sorry, I have some problem here. Pause. Yeah, okay. How can we reduce fish loss and IUU fishing? There are some different initiatives, some different ways to do that. But what we do now actually is trace and trust, trying to build a bridge between production and the food industry, try to ensure transparency, make the records demonstrate our traceability, and the data to be available to all the people, to all the companies trading with us in our chain. So there we have a problem. We have a problem with mislabeling. We have a problem with fraud. We see every day many different cases of mislabeling or fraud, and we have now the tools to avoid that. So at the same time, we like to improve consumers' experience. We like to offer the consumers some different possibilities to get information point to point, from the sea to the plate. We'd like to help the industry, and we'd like to help as well the consumers to get that information. There are many different examples of this, of telling this story, of improving our trademark, and we do that with our platform. Our platform is very, very interesting. Is very powerful. Actually, is the first example of applying blockchain technology to food industry. Here, we started with the biggest company doing that, and is actually a successful story. We use this bottom technology. They are our partners, and this allows us with APIs to connect to your ERP, to the software you are, to verify the data, and to upload this data to the blockchain, helping the industry to share the information in a very, very trustable way. What makes us different? We have a patent for this interoperability issue, so we don't need to work with only a chain, with a private or public chain. We can change and work with different chains. That's very, very important. We call this, we are agnostic. It's very easy to integrate our platform with the software you have in your company, and it's very easy to change the blockchain you use if you want to save some money, maybe, or if you prefer public or you prefer private. That's a very good point for our platform. Our platform looks after the whole chain. Actually, we are now trying to get information from the boat, and we are talking about open sea fishing boats. So we'll have the information from the sea, point to point, to the customer, including, of course, processing, distribution, all the stakeholders of the chain. That's very important. There are some pilots, and usually the information starts in the factory, at the factory, maybe at the port, but now we are trying with IoT to get this information directly from the boat and uploading this information to the blockchain from the boat. It's similar to aquaculture. Maybe here we have different things like controlling the using of antibiotics, or controlling how we feed the fish. But it's the same technology, and we only need to check at the process and the steps. How with this QR, if somebody like to scan this code, is a real code, is a code we use in our in a project recently, and we actually live can scan this code and see what we do. We have as well searched for some examples. There are nice examples of applying this technology. 2-3 years ago, started the first pilots in the world. Many of these companies are companies you know perfectly, and this is for both fishing, wild fish, and aquaculture. So it's very interesting. This is an example of made by a different company. We don't really mind this, because what we try is to prove this technology and to show the industry that the technology is working and is very helpful for us. So it doesn't mind if you work with me or you work with a different company. The thing is, there is an opportunity now to check this technology. You can see SAP, you can work with different ERP. It's not about only wild fish, it's about everything. And I'm very, very sorry. I don't know how to stop these presentations. So please, you can see here my details on the screen. Ask me. Thank you. Ask me whatever you want, and please don't hesitate to contact me for additional information, or to talk about this technology and to share your knowledge, and to talk about how this technology combined with other technologies can be used. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jose. Now the session is open for discussion. We have received a question from our audience. The first question is by Mekwan Leo from China. How does blockchain technology apply in traceability?
Well, thank you for the question. Traceability is all about trust. It's all about data. So the most important thing, in my opinion, is that the data have to be reliable. You need to trust that data. Blockchain is only a way to secure the information, but information needs to be good, needs to be real. So the most important thing here is the data and the quality of the data. That's my opinion.
One more question is there. Question is, how can problems in blockchain technology be solved?
Yeah, as you can delete the data, problems, usually this question is more about what happens if I make a mistake at some point, and after that I can't delete that information. So the thing is, you have a chain. So the thing you can do is to correct this information with an additional information in a step, a different step in the chain. But what you can do is to delete the original information. So it's a bit of it's complicated. It's not easy, but it's very, very important, because this is this technology is strong because of that, because you can't alter, you can delete, you can go back or come back to the original information, and that's important. Is what is about this technology. So I think is more important to protect the quality and the information than to think about how can I delete this information somewhere, sometime. It's not so important for us.
Thank you, Mr. Jose.
Thank you.
That was quite an interactive session.
Thank you for the opportunity.
It's time to wrap up sessions for the day. Tomorrow, on day 2, we have 2 sessions on MSc certification and fishery improvement projects for sustainable seafood and international seafood market trends and analytics. See you until then.
Livelihoods for thousands of years. As technology has advanced, we've become capable of fishing more intensively. So looking after the oceans and the resources they provide is more important now than ever before. If the oceans are to be healthy, productive, and full of fish in the future, we have to fish sustainably. Sustainable fishing reduces environmental impacts, leaves more fish in the sea, and harms fewer marine animals. Sustainable fisheries have good management practices. The Marine Stewardship Council standard allows fisheries to show that they are well managed and that they fish in a sustainable way. The MSc standard is open to all fisheries that would like to be recognized as sustainable. To be certified as sustainable, a fishery must be able to meet all 3 principles of the MSc standard. The fishery must leave enough fish in the sea so that stocks can reproduce and fishing can go on forever. Fishing operations need to be managed so that the wider marine environment, other plants, animals, and habitat can flourish and support life. The fishery must have good management in place. The MSc uses its blue eco label to identify seafood that has come from sustainable fisheries certified to its standard. The eco label is already displayed on tens of thousands of products in over 100 countries around the world. Consumers who want to play their part in maintaining and improving the health of the oceans can look for and choose seafood with a distinctive blue MSC eco label. It is vital that we safeguard the ocean's resources and protect people's livelihoods for the future. To do this, we need to work together.